It's one of those things you got to ask yourself. First of all, you have a dropshipping company, right? The dropshipping store, and you got to think about, how do I maintain profits? And it's very important to understand that when we are thinking about profits in general, you got to pay attention to refunds and returns, boss. Those things are really eating away at your profits. If you don't control those two elements, returns and refunds, the what we call the re, you are going to be in big trouble. Okay, so here's an overview I really want you to think about when you think about dropshipping practices for managing returns. This is the topic I want to talk to you about in today's conversation. It's really important to understand that when you are actually thinking about managing your returns and the refunds and all the ancillary elements that revolve around the returns, you are doing a lot of good things for your store. Not just in terms of maintaining revenue, because revenue, you got to maintain revenue anyway, but you are building trust. You are building trust, and this is really important. Okay, you are retaining customers. Customers love it when your store is just maintaining a very high, very stellar level of customer service. Okay, but if you just every now and then you just ship to a customer's very crappy products, or your shipping process is just taking so long, customers will leave your store in droves. And before you know it, you used to do like 6 digits, and one day you wake up, you're making 5 digits, then 4 digits in revenue. And long before you know it, your ass is out of the market. You are out of the game. Your ass is out of the game. So bosses, this is really important. By the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here as we are talking today about dropshipping practices for managing returns. Okay, and if you manage your returns properly, you are reducing negative reviews. We all know how negative reviews can be really detrimental to your store, right? I mean, not just for dropshipping, but in e-commerce in general. You have to understand, nowadays, customers have a variety of ways to express their displeasure, to express their dissatisfaction. So you really want to make sure that your reviews are as stellar as possible. And if you are able to manage your returns properly, you are also saving time and resources. Okay, we're talking about money. We're talking about logistical resources. We're speaking about technological resources. So you have a lot of stuff to think about. Here is the approach I really want you to think about. So in today's conversation, I want to share with you a few in our view, and we've been actually doing research on this topic for the last 20 years, and we have actually advised our clients, a lot of our clients, to adopt the same strategies I'm about to share with you in today's conversation. The first thing, so here are a few best practices for managing your dropshipping returns. First, you want to have a clear return policy. I want you to create a clear return policy, boss. Because see, the thing is, when we talk about returns and refunds, you don't want to have like some kind of vague content around those topics. Customers must be very clear. Customers must have a transparent policy that is sent to them, so they are clear about what you stand for, what your store will and will not tolerate. It's not about being like a dictator or whatever, like, you know, being straightforward. No, it's about being very clear and transparent. So when we talk about you having a return policy, I want you to communicate your policy clearly. You have to specify time frames. Are you going to accept products after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, after 1 week? What is your policy? Talk to me about that. Okay, you need to outline return resolutions. So if there is a problem, if there is a conflict, what is the path towards resolution? Okay, you want to clarify product eligibility. Maybe some products are not eligible because, hey, listen, if some products based on their nature or based on their price, you're like, you know what, I'm not taking this back. Then you have to specify that. Okay, you also have to include return instructions. When we talk about returns, it's really important to have instructions, especially if let's say your drop shipping supplier is in another country, is not in the States. You also want to address common issues. Okay, you want to anticipate common issues that customers may encounter when returning products, such as damaged or defective items, and you want to outline how these issues will be handled. The point I'm trying to make here is that you have to really anticipate. The more you anticipate, the better it is. Okay. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We're having a conversation about dropshipping best practices for managing returns. How do you manage returns and make sure that the impact on your store, not only operationally, in terms of profitability, and also in terms of reputation, overall reputation, is really, really lessened, is really minimal. So the first policy is to create a clear return policy, right? The second thing you have to do here is to make returns easy and convenient. See, the whole thing here is that customers, when they initiate the whole return policy, the return process, most of them, they are already pissed, like, or dissatisfied, or like they're not in a positive mindset. Let's just put it that way. Maybe not pissed at you or your store, but just pissed in general, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't return the item in the first place. So this is why it's really important. It's actually a big burden for you to make the returns easy and convenient. I'm talking about providing multiple returns methods. I want you to keep it simple, right? You just want to have a clear idea. You want to give the customer clear ideas about shipping labels, where to put things, how to put things, and you want to give clear instructions. My whole point here is that clarity. I mean, clarity, transparency. Like, don't try to confuse the hell out of people. Like, people are already, as I said, when somebody returns their products, they're already pissed. I mean, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to deal with you, whatever it is, So it's all about you trying to like recapture the little bit of positivity that's left in them, right? So give clear instructions, and you want to be responsive and transparent. Responsiveness shows respect, right? Responsive, respectful. If you are responsive, you are respectful. You'll respect your customer. This is why timely responsiveness. I mean, timely answering, customer inquiries in a very timely and I would say timely fashion is really important. Okay, so just gonna recap here. You want to make the returns easy and convenient by providing multiple return methods, by keeping it simple, very simple, straightforward. Don't try to confuse the hell out of customers. You want to give clear instructions, and you want to be responsive and transparent. Okay, and this, if you do this right, if you play this game correctly, you will see that customers will be very happy about the whole process, and this will actually have a great, I would say, domino effect on your store. The third thing I want you to do here is to automate the returns process. See, the whole thing is, even if you have one store and you are selling one product, you can say, well, I'm going to do this manually. Okay, you do this manually, but keep in mind, you're selling only one product and you're managing one store. What if you have 10 customers returning the same products in the same week? What if you had 100 customers returning the same products in the same month or whatever? You can see that even if you have one store, the amount of work, the workload is still very heavy, right? It's still massive. Now, I want you to think about, you have 10 products and you have 2 stores or 3 stores or 4 stores. You get the point. The point I'm trying to make here is that don't try to do things manually. If you have one store, one product, and maybe one client, you can do things manually. But as soon as you scale, you want to introduce technology in the whole process. So you want to automate, because see, the whole thing is you are trying to reduce the likelihood of errors. You are trying to save time and resources. Okay, so things like emails, phone calls, you don't want to manage returns manually at all. Okay, so you want to get something like a returns management software, like return management system, for instance, to kind of help you out. Or you can even outsource the whole thing to a third party. So it could be a third party, it could be 3PL, it can be a fulfillment company. It really depends. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you again of today's topic. We are having a conversation about dropshipping practices for managing returns. So I'm sharing with you what we have learned in the last 20 years when it comes to dropshipping returns. Okay. Number 4, what you want to do, you want to track returns data. This is really important because over time you want to see what's really happening. If there are areas in your company in your store, in the way you manage your store, or the kind of products that you sell. Because without intel, without analytics, you will never be able to improve your operations. So you got to constantly monitor what's really happening. Okay, things like return reasons, return rates, refund processing times, return cost. Those elements will help you run a profitable store over time. The next thing I want you to do here is that when you are thinking about, let's say, dropshipping returns, and you're thinking about the impact on your store overall, you got to think about communication with customers. See, the whole thing is customers are really your friend. I mean, they're the reasons why you're making money. At the same time, your customers are your friends. Think about your customers as family. Okay, how would you want a family member to talk to you? If you have the answer to that question, then do the same thing with your customers. Okay, communicate with customers throughout the returns process, because what you're trying to do here is you are trying to build trust. You want to actually reduce customer frustration. And when you think about it, it's all about improving the overall returns experience, right? Because the thing is that customers actually pay attention a lot to how your store reacts and how your store communicates in times of crisis, quote unquote crisis, because a returns is not really a crisis matter, but it is not something that customers will do naturally. People go people shop in stores because they want to buy stuff they like, not because they just want to buy the stuff and return that stuff after 2 or 3 weeks. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you are able to communicate with your customers all along, you would have established a certain caliber of trust, a certain caliber of I would say camaraderie, and that's what you want. I'm not saying you become buddy with your customers or whatever. No, this is still business. You're not a charity. You're not like a after school program where you have people just hanging out. No, but you can still make money in a spirit that is filled with camaraderie. And number 6, I want you to encourage exchanges over refunds. See, the whole thing here is that refunds are costly, literally costly, because there's revenue coming out of your coffer or your coffers. Okay, but returns rather, if you have not returns, if you have exchanges, then that's like actually swapping one item versus the other, right? So if you want to encourage exchanges over refunds, you want to offer incentives, you want to make exchanges easy, you want to make upsells from exchanges, you want to offer free shipping, and you want to analyze exchange data over time to see if it's really working or not. So you have to really be on top of your game when it comes to that. Okay, and this is quite essential. The next thing I want you to do right now is that if you are trying to if you're in dropshipping and you're trying to manage returns intelligently, you're trying to make money out of returns, yeah, because you can still maintain your profitability or increase it even if customers are just having returns. And the thing here is that you got to protect yourself against return fraud. Fraud is I mean, for most of us in this business for the last 20 years, you know that fraud is just a crazy problem. Okay, so return fraud is when customers fraudulently return products for financial gain. There are several forms of return fraud, including returning stolen items, returning used items as new, or returning counterfeit items. So return fraud can be a serious problem for e-commerce businesses because it can lead to lost revenue, increased cost, and damage to reputation. Okay, so to prevent return fraud, you want to inspect return items. You want to implement a clear return policy. You want to actually limit the number of returns. Okay, so at least okay, per customer, you can say, you know what, you can't make like more than 10 returns per year, per quarter, for 6 months. So that way customers know that there is certain limits. And you want to verify the customer's identity. So you're able to basically know whom you're dealing with. That way you know that if they keep on doing this, you have already identified their ads anyway. Okay. And you got to keep detailed records of returns. So you want to pay attention to things like return reasons, item condition, because what you're trying to do here is you want to track patterns of return fraud and identify suspicious activity. And you also want to work with fraud prevention solutions. So those are automated, I would say more advanced solutions. Okay. So if you have the resources and if your store is big enough to warrant that kind of, I would say, assurance, then you want to work with third-party fraud prevention services that specialize in identifying and preventing return fraud. That way, it's a good investment, and you are also making a big bang for your buck anyway. One thing I want you to do here is that, boss, I want you to really, no matter what you do, you got to be compliant with the law. Like, don't do nothing. Don't do anything illegal or anything against the laws and regulations in the jurisdictions where you operate. Okay, comply with the refund laws. So the thing here is that it's really important to know that a lot of jurisdictions have different laws regarding e-commerce fraud, and dropshipping fraud is clearly a part of e-commerce fraud. Okay, so part of managing e-commerce returns includes making sure you comply with refund laws and regulations that can vary widely depending on the country, state, or region in which your business operates. Okay, now, for instance, let me just break it down for you. Some jurisdictions in the states and maybe and even overseas, they require businesses to provide customers with a certain minimum return window, or require certain information to be included in return policies. So it's really important, therefore, to do what? You want to really understand. That's number one. And number two, you want to comply with refund laws and regulations because you want to avoid potential legal issues and penalties, right? So non-compliance with refund laws can actually result in expensive fines, legal action, and reputational damage. And something you don't want. I mean, all those things, you don't want those things anyway. So to ensure compliance, you want to research and familiarize yourself with the refund laws and regulations to avoid potential legal issues and penalties. So just make sure that you have that. But overall, this is just fantastic. I mean, you are able to to take action and ensure compliance. Okay. And one way to do this is to consult legal professionals or government agencies that specialize in consumer protection and refund regulations. So additionally, just make sure to regularly review and update your return policy to reflect changes in laws and regulations. This is kind of cool. So the bottom line here is that if you are transparent and compliant with the refund laws and regulations, you can protect your business and your customers while maintaining trust and credibility in the marketplace. And that's what you want. And so you need to beef up your dropshipping store by taking care of the returns process. Okay. So if you're able to implement the practices that I just gave you, you'll be able to streamline your returns process and provide a positive experience for your customers, so your customers overall. Okay. And so one thing I want to say here is before closing is that do not forget that every e-commerce store, every dropshipping store is different, and your return policy should be tailored to your unique dropshipping business needs. Okay, so this is kind of cool, and if you have the right approach, you should be able to turn returns into an opportunity to build customer loyalty and improve your bottom line. So you have a lot of things going on, a lot of stuff that are positive that you can actually do to get more sales. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just talking to you about dropshipping practices for managing returns. So I share with you a few hacks here and there to get the kind of dropshipping return that you need. Thank you. God bless you. I'll speak to you another time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.